Yeah, it's not much changing here at Elizabeth Oval. They've got away to a good break, 23 points first quarter, and they lead at half-time by 21 points. The Dogs would be very happy with that. Port Adelaide coming back, though. You can never have too much of a lead over the Dogs. Well, yesterday at the MCG, South Australia played Victoria in the 15th State of Origin game. It was 7-all before that game, and we went down by 63 points. We were without Kernahan, Modra, McGuinness, but their only excuses really in the end were absolutely trounced by a far better Victoria. Mark Haston has a report on the game.
With doubts over the future of State of Origin football, the AFL needed a draw card.
Stevens on the end of it.
Lockett set the stage with a 3-goal first quarter.
Lockett into the goal square. He's kicked 3.
And then Ablett joined in, and the spectacle continued.
He's got it.
Garry Lyon was another gem in the Victorian forward line. And Silvani just as productive in defence.
Champion and Silvani, well played by Sauce.
At the break, Victoria had carved out a 33-point lead. The Victorians continued their blitzkrieg in the second term, Lockett figuring with monotonous regularity.
Bayes off the right foot, great kick. Lockett made ground like you've never seen Tony Lockett do before.
South Australia worked hard for its goals, but with only 3 in the first half, the odds seemed insurmountable. The Victorians sealed the match during the third quarter with a 6-goal burst, Lockett and Ablett again featuring. South Australian captain Chris McDermott watched from the bench as his side failed to fold completely. The last term, the Crow Eaters' best. Lockett and Ablett have kicked over 1,800 goals between them. Under gloomy skies, they booted 11 together.
And he will find Ablett.
A fitting result with so much at stake.
Slide angle, and yes, he's kicked it. That's it. The Vics have won it. A famous victory.
18-12 to 8-9, 120 plays, 57, 63-point margin, and terrible, isn't it? What are you laughing at?
No, well,
it was a shocking result. You were laughing. You were captain of the state. You played in some winning games.
It wasn't good for South Australian football, but when you look at the side, you mentioned those names before, they really were on a hiding to nothing. And to start, I know in hindsight you can think, well, what they did, but they started Viney and Bickley, who are two of the best ball getters at AFL level, on the bench. Now, on a day like that, why wouldn't you start them?
Yeah, I guess David Mackay and Stephen Trigger on the boundary line. Firstly, David, we've got to ask about McIntosh. Wet day, the ground would have suited him. Were there a lot better players overall than him? I mean, should he got a chance?
I think that's a fair comment, Neville. I mean, I was one of the players who said McIntosh in that sphere, tough game, wet conditions, would be ideal. And I think we needed an inspirational leader, didn't we? We needed somebody to balance the E.J. Whitten factor. Not that perhaps Macca has got that authority, but he's well respected by all and sundry. I think they really could have used his inspiration. They just really had very little.
And Stephen, around the ground, Mansfield, O'Donnell, Burke, Couch, Hocking. I mean, you can talk about the forward line, but just their runners. I mean, it was one of the best sides I think I've ever seen for Victoria.
Yeah, they're all pretty good players, aren't they? No doubt about that. Our on-ballers, I reckon, had an off day. Johnny Platten was probably the most productive of them, along with Andrew Jarman. With some boys who had some downers, though. Bradley, Darren Jarman and company had very, very quiet days. But what about up the front? I know that you can talk about the midfield power, but if you haven't got any people to finish it off, then you're in strife. But if you've got Ablett and Lockett up the front, I wouldn't want to be playing at fullback, quite frankly.
Fair comment. Kernahan, I mean, you've got to say, Cornty's been lucky to have him for the last 10 years. You've played in games, and we've all been lucky to play alongside him. I don't think I've ever played alongside a player who's got more authority in the forward line than Stephen Kernahan, and we missed him yesterday.
Well, we missed him without doubt.
I'm not sure whether the implication there, Neville, is that Cornsey was so reliant on Kernahan. I know that Kernahan kicked 10 in the late 80s, and it was a game that we won by 60-odd points, so his influence has been, well, I guess, omnipotent. But, you know, Graham's got a great record. It's just yesterday he was outgunned. There's no doubt about that. There were far, far too many good players for Victoria. They had a reason to play for, and they thumped us, and it was pretty disappointing to watch, quite frankly.
Well, David, when you talk about, sorry, Neville, when you talk about the forward line, you've got Champion, who's a renowned full-back, and you're starting him at full forward now, a pretty strange move.
Look, I've got to say to you, I had some real problems with that personally. Now, it's always easy to criticise after the event, but To be blunt, I wouldn't have played Champion. I mean, that's no disrespect to him. He's been a terrific player, hasn't he, Triggy? But
you said to me you would play him. No, if there was nothing better to play.
No, I've got to say to you, I think there were quite a number. I would have probably played Charm as well before him. Like a lot of people out here have even called for Shane Wakeland, but Champion really hasn't done enough at that level.
And full forward particularly.
Oh, even at full forward, even at full back. I thought if you were going to play him, you had to play on Lockett. And
who would you have played at full forward then?
Well, I probably would have played Brett Chalmers, frankly. I would have gone the same way the Crows went. I think Robert Shaw's worked it out pretty well. We needed a big focal point.
And would it have made a difference? Would we have won? I think
no,
we were going to be outgunned.
I don't think we could have won it. I don't think we had a chance to win it.
So maybe
for the first time in 5 years, Victoria had a full complement. Lockett played, Lowe played, Ablett played, and they're players who historically have ruled themselves out just with they've almost feigned injuries, haven't they?
Well, they have, and the bottom line is that if you add people like Lyon across the half-forward line, Neville, you've got a pretty classy outfit.
Well, you have, and this time I'll ask you the question.
Good idea.
We'll try and keep them out down there for a second. But as you said, Triggy, I'm talking to Ashi at the moment. Lyon, I'll just keep this out of the one, getting excited, Ablett and Plugger up forward. I mean, in the end, the whole stadium, I think everyone in Australia just wanted to see that combination. I mean, it was great entertainment.
It was, and the talent of those three in particular. And you can look back to 1989 when they had Dunstan and Lockett, who kicked 9 between them, and off the bench came Broughton. So it's not a bad setup.
Yes, they had plenty of depth, and yesterday was an absolutely sensational example of just how good Victoria are. Final scores there again: Victoria 18-12, 120, South Australia 8-9. I don't know when we last got that sort of a hiding. It certainly hasn't been in Graham Corns' time. He had something like 6 on the trot against Victoria, and an absolute dream run, but it finished yesterday. Well, we're at Elizabeth Oval. We're live, and during the week, David Mackay caught up with a former champion at, well, he's now talking.